You know, I'm gonna beat you in a minute, right? I don't play tennis, but
I still do.
I'm not no
occasionally.
punk. Monica commented on one of my stories, and she was asking how things were. So I was like, it's a perfect time to kind of drop that into conversation because she'd be a great guest for the show. So I sent her that, and she was like, that looks awesome. And I just, regular conversation, I was like, yeah, I'd love to have you on if you're available. And I think she's doing work with the tennis channel or something like that. And she said that she's going to be in LA. So we're trying to coordinate on, getting her on the show. And I think that would be really dope. You remember, I think shortly after I had arm surgery, she had some sort of surgery.
her elbow.
Elbow at the time, right? So, we both had a bunch of injuries in our career, and she retired shortly after I did too. So I think it would be good to.
I think that would be a great conversation.
Right.
And super empowering to have a female guest on the show as well.
Monica Puig, appreciate you coming on. I'm excited about this. As I was looking through your notes and going through your career, I realized how many similarities that we had. I think it's safe to say that both of our career highs were in 2016, where I was a MLB All-Star and you were an Olympic gold medal winner. I mean, that's amazing. And then following that, we both had our bouts with major surgeries and all kinds of things like that changed the game for me, and we'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later for you. But you were born in Puerto Rico, but you were raised in Miami. So what was your life like before tennis?
That's a loaded question because a lot of people, they think I got into tennis right away, but that wasn't the case. I have an older brother by 3 years, and I, being the younger sibling and the younger sister, I was his shadow. So everything that he did, I wanted to do. He did taekwondo, swimming, baseball. I wanted to get into all of that until I kind of got bored and needed to find my own passion, my own job, my own thing that I wanted to do. Not job, I mean job came later on, but my mom gave me my first racket when I was 6. And, I danced ballet, I did gymnastics, I did everything. But really, tennis is what stuck. And growing up in Miami, there was so much opportunity. Being a very active city, there's always plenty of sports to play, plenty of young kids getting into sports. And thankfully, when I was growing up, there was an abundance of tennis in Miami, so it was pretty easy to get into it and kind of fell in love with it.
Okay. So it was a natural love from the jump.
Yeah, because it was fun. The way I started was like a ton of clinics, with younger kids, and the good thing is that it would be a lot of, games, and it wasn't very serious right away. So I was able to think of tennis as something that was very fun to do and, win prizes if you get, X amount of shots in the court. It was really fun until it really started to get nitty-gritty with the seriousness and possibly becoming a professional. And I mean, Miami was the best place to possibly do this. When
was the point where you started to feel like, I'm pretty damn good at this, I'm gonna get to the next level?
I think it was when I was about 12 to 13 years old. The transition between me being a 6-year-old and kind of getting older in the sport was gradual. I played Florida tournaments. I started playing a little bit more national tournaments, and it wasn't up until I was 14 that I started to play internationally and kind of really saw where I was getting in the sport. And I turned pro when I was 16. It wasn't a decision that I made lightly because I gave away my NCAA eligibility by turning pro. So I had a lot of offers to, Division I schools, obviously, to get a great education and play tennis along the way. But my parents didn't really let me take that decision to turn pro unless they saw that there was potential for more.
Right.
So at 16 years old, I made 2 Grand Slam junior finals, number 2 in the world in juniors. So they're like, okay, if you really want this, you can go ahead and do it. They weren't going to let me give up my education for anything.
Right.
But I had to prove to them that it was going to be the best decision. So I think that from 13 to 17, it was really just Monica growing into what she would become in the future and kind of learning all the the tricks of the trade.
Right. Was there ever a moment like after you felt like you were good enough to go to the next level and continue to win? Was there ever a moment where you felt like challenged, where something challenged that thought, where you were like, well, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was? Like, was there a moment that you can remember? Was there like a specific match or anything that happened?
I mean, I say that 16 was the turning point. 16 was also that point where I was like, maybe I'm not cut out for this, because throughout my whole career, I was like the late bloomer of the group.
Okay.
In my age group, I was the last one to everything, the last one to get success, the last one to kind of like make it onto the scene. And so that had kind of been the trend up until then. So at 16, you know, I was top 50, top 60 in the junior circuit, and I was like, well, this is not good enough. This is not what I feel like I should be doing. And I gave myself maybe like a month to see where I was going to be before taking that jump to the pros, and it kind of all clicked in those last 4 weeks that I gave myself, and I really made that jump, and I was like, okay, let's do this. But definitely there are many times during my career where I questioned myself, questioned my ability. But
you know, some people have certain self-deprecating thoughts or whatever it is. What specifically were the type of thoughts that you thought about during those times, and what did you do to quiet them or get over them, or what was your process to get rid of those?
I think a lot of it was just like, am I good enough to win tournaments? Because a lot of the time you can have all of the, you know, good shots, you know how to play, everybody knows how to play tennis,
right,
but not everybody knows how to get far in tournaments, not everybody knows how to win the big matches, and I wasn't doing that. And you know, I was like, okay, well, am I really cut out for this? And a lot of the time, something that professional athletes may lack is patience. And we want to get to the end result right now. And I'm not going to say I'm a not naturally patient person. I like to see results right away. I like to do things right away. But that was something that I had to learn, was like, if I keep working and I keep doing the right things, you know, the results will end up following. And if they don't, then you know what, I can say I did everything I could, and it just didn't happen. But I learned along the way how to be patient, how to trust the process, how to trust the work, and eventually the results ended up following. So I think it was just trying to get myself to calm down and trust the process. And that's something that, you know, as I matured as a person, I still don't have it right yet. I mean, you go learning along the way, but you know, you figure it out as you go.
Yeah, so a couple things on that. I was also like a late bloomer, but I think that added to what made me great, because I think it's healthy to question your ability, but not in a self-deprecating way, but in a way to see if you can survive in that environment, that you're good enough for that environment. And for me, I was a late bloomer. I was always getting made fun of. I had the late growth spurt, so I was chubby for a little bit. You know, yeah, that really made me work hard, and my dad as well. My dad was one of the ones that kept my head on straight, and whenever I got too down, he was saying, hey, you know, work, you know, I don't care, this is right now, you know, you're still not even fully grown, you know, continue to work and see what happens. But it's good to question that, because that leads you to find things that maybe you are lacking, like negative tendencies that you would overlook if you're overly confident. So what negative tendencies did you have while playing, and how did you overcome those? Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. For me, mine was effort and wanting to do too good, you know. So all my career, I was like trying so hard, and I ran into a pitching coordinator. He was like, you have the tools, you have it, you have the aggressiveness, but you're too aggressive. So I want you to focus on controlled aggressiveness. So that was one of my mantras. Whenever I started to do bad, I started noting how I would speed up and try to do too much. So I started telling myself, hey, controlled aggressiveness, and that was one of the things that kind of got me into the space that I need to be in to perform. So what were your negative tendencies, and how did you overcome them?
I mean, I can definitely relate to what you're saying a lot. I'm definitely on the court very overly aggressive, and I want to do too much because I think I have to when I really don't.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I found myself being more result oriented and kind of basing my worth as a tennis player based off of my wins and losses. So if I would lose in the first round of a tournament, I would say I'm a bad tennis player because I lost in the first round, and not really look at the big picture and say, okay, I lost the tennis match, but you know, you can lose a match two ways. You can lose the right way, or you can lose the wrong way. And for me, the right way was having the right intentions, you know, doing exactly what my coach and I agreed on, the game plan. And you know what? If your opponent was better that day, it just happened. She blew you off the court, or you tried the right things, but the execution wasn't there.
Right.
Or you can lose the wrong way, which is having a bad attitude, or just simply not trying, or not try and look for solutions if your opponent is presenting you with a problem.
Right.
So a lot of the time I would throw that mentality out the window and just say, I lost. I don't really care what happened. I lost. I'm a bad tennis player. So I had to go learning, and my coaches had to kind of coach me through that negative space and say, this is what we need to be focusing on after each win and loss, because you can also win a match and do the wrong things, or you can win a match and do the right things.
Yeah.
So it was kind of shifting that perspective. Instead of saying I won, everything's perfect. It's like, no, did you win the right way, or did you lose the right way? Did you win the wrong way, or did you win the right way?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I would just get in my whole headspace on being more result oriented than process, and knowing exactly what I needed to do. And everybody wants to win and lose, but I think where you really win is doing the little things that you're supposed to be doing in order to reach that end goal. And that was something I really had to deal with. And I still don't have it right, and I still think this way, but it's good to have those reminders that there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And if you know that you're doing the right things and you end up failing, you just keep doing it until it clicks. But if you're doing the wrong things, you have to ask yourself the question, why am I not getting success? It's like, well, maybe I might change something in order to get the end result I want.
In terms of equality in tennis, what are the issues that you think need to be addressed between men and women?
I mean, there's still that talk about equal prize money a lot of the time, that there are some tournaments that still continue to pay the men way more than the women, even in tournaments where we're playing the same amount of sets. I mean, I know there's been that discussion that men should be paid more in the Grand Slams because they're playing 3 out of 5 and girls play 2 out of 3. But the way I see it is that while we're sometimes not on court for a very, very long time, we still put in the hours, we still put in the same amount of effort. There were times where I was on court practicing for 4 hours straight.
Right.
I'm still going to the gym, I'm still putting in 8-hour days. And about tennis players is, the work is pretty much 24 hours a day. Like, with baseball, you wake up and it's all about the sport, and even sleeping is part of your job. So, that's something that's still been talked about a lot. I know that men's tennis is on TV a lot more than women's tennis, when I think, men are, some of their matches are great, but some of them are too long. And I feel like women's tennis it's quick, it's unpredictable, it's entertaining in that way.
And like you said, there's a lot of power in women's tennis right now too. I mean, there's girls that are serving ungodly amount.
Very big, and there's a lot of variety. It's not always the same face, which I think is pretty cool.
Right.
But there are some tournaments, like last week in Madrid, we saw some things where a male player on his birthday got a huge cake on center court, and there was the number 2 player in the world who received the small cake outside the court in like a player area. The women's doubles final, they weren't able to, give a speech at the end of the final when the men could.
Oh, wow.
So there's certain things that are still, a work in process on that side. I think the WTA and the ATP, there are some players who are trying to get together to form a union to really address these issues. It's an ongoing process, not just in tennis, but in sports as well. And I do see a shift, and it's really making me happy to see that shift. It's just a matter of time before it becomes very consistent and even. But it's a topic that I hope continues being addressed.
All right. Oh, damn it. God damn.
So when you hit it, just try, like when you hit that last one out, you hit the ball and you continued up, baseball typical tendency. So you want to go straight, forward, close.
Okay.
Basically in tennis, you always want your follow-throughs to go where you're supposed to be playing.
If
you want to play forward, it has to go forward. You always want to hit out in front, but you don't want to hit it here because it's too early. You don't want to hit it here, it's too late. So like
about a little bit like your front hip, maybe?
Yeah, just right in front.
Okay.
Here.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, I'm gonna hit a few,
all right.
Hit me a couple back. It was out. That's why I didn't hit it over.
Yeah, I know, it was terrible. Now I'm gonna serve that way.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. Oh, he's making me run now, okay.
Ah.
I was being nice and giving you the ball right where you want it. And I know you don't like that side, so.
No, I haven't perfected that yet.
What is it with you and your drop shots, man?
I can't.
What is this?
If I hit it hard, it's gonna go over the damn fence.
We need a good one.
F
You're on the
word.
right track, though.
F word. Yes.
You good with that one?
I made it over.
You hit it over,
I
you
made
made
it
it
over.
in, so it's all good.
All right, we'll do one more drill.
Yep.
What is one that you would normally do like in a typical practice?
So a lot of the time.
And we can have Jeff like hit them to you or something
Yeah,
like that.
I would
so.
do a lot of side to sides. So side to side movements. If he wants to, you want to run me around the court for a little bit?
That's amazing. Olympic gold medal winner. It's amazing. So, how was your process going into the 2016 Olympics? What was were you on a good wave? Was
Yeah.
things were clicking?
Yeah, that whole year was impeccable for me. I think I had a total of 12 losses in 2016 and probably one of the top 3 in wins for the whole year. I mean, the Olympics was something that was such a cool experience, but I treated it very differently from my approach to all other events. I went into the Olympics with the sole purpose of enjoying myself and having a good time because, you know, I didn't know if I was going to get a moment like this ever again, and effectively I didn't, but I was like, look, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to stay at the Village because in Pan Am Games, Central American Games, I would stay at the hotel because it's like tennis focused. This needs to be a thing. I'm like, no, this is my first Olympics. I'm going to stay in the Village. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to, you know, talk to the other people in Team Puerto Rico. We're going to have a great time. And effectively, that's what we did. And that helped me so much because every time I would leave the tennis courts, it was an immediate disconnect from sport, from tennis.
Okay.
And I wouldn't think about my matches the next day. I wouldn't, nothing. I would just go and have a good time. I would, you know, have dinner with the rest of the people in the team. I would just, you know, be social for the first time. And tennis is one of those very solitary sports where you don't have a team and you're just by yourself. I mean, I have my coach, my chiropractor, my fitness trainer with me, but I see them all the time. I see them every day.
Right.
But it was just a different experience. And I talked to a lot of people and they're like, you just look so different in the whole event. And I was like, yeah, because I was having a good time. I wasn't putting all this pressure on myself.
You're playing loose.
I honestly didn't expect to win. I didn't put any pressure on myself to win. I was ranked 34 in the world.
Right.
I was unseeded. And I think it was when I won my 3rd round match that was, you know, I beat the number 3 in the world in under an hour and playing some incredible tennis. I was like, okay, I need to do some reevaluating here because I've been playing this well. I need to give myself an opportunity to win and, you know, kind of flip the script a little bit on my focus.
Right.
You know, by no means did I stop having my fun,
Right.
which is awesome. But I started believing in myself a little bit more, and that drove me to have success. And I was just having fun out there, and that was, I think, the best and most exciting tournament I've ever played.
I mean, I'll say you won the gold.
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't, I don't think it was really about the result as much as every time I look back on the matches, there wasn't the stress of, you know, a result. I was just kind of focusing on what I needed to do and just in a flow, in a trance out there that I couldn't really replicate in any other tournament, which is surprising.
Was there a point in the match where you felt like, in the gold medal match, where you're like, I'm about to win this thing? Was there a moment like that?
You know, when I started the match, I was nervous, but, you know, settled in nicely, won the first set, and I was up in the second set. We were pretty even, but I was up, and I was like, it's right there. It's within reach. Like, I can win this. And Kerber was the type of, I had lost to her before. She's one of the most solid players on tour, had won the Australian Open that year, so she was having a hell of a year, number 2 in the world. And I'm like, I have this. I know I have this because I'm playing well, and I had the crowd behind me. It was amazing. And yeah, I started putting pressure on myself to win because, you know, there's the result. It's almost there, and this is going to be the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. And I end up losing the second set, and I sit down and I was like, did you have fun? Like, realistically, did you enjoy that? And I'm like talking to myself, I'm like, no, I didn't. That was terrible. And I was like, look, this can go one of two ways. This set will be over in, an average of a set, 25, 30 minutes if it goes quick, or an hour. And I was like, do you want to spend the last hour out here being miserable and focusing on a result, or do you want to really soak this in and enjoy it? And to be honest, I went into full autopilot mode. I have no idea what happened in that third set. I was singing a song in my head the whole time. I kind of like blacked out.
Yeah.
And I ended up closing it out, and it was just the most surreal thing that I have ever felt. It was like, you know, that life flashing before your eyes moment, but it was all of the stuff that I've done in my life to get to that point. Like, I saw myself as a little kid playing, you know, growing up in the juniors, all the wins and losses, just the culmination in that moment was incredible.
It's whenever you've worked, you put in the work to achieve the level of play that you want to play, but you don't allow your mind to think about it, because if you thought about all the movements that you had to do to achieve just a serve or to run, to move all your body parts to do that, it'll mess with your mind. So when you practice enough and you relax just enough but have just enough urgency to allow all of that work that you've done since you were a little kid come out, it's an amazing moment. I had a similar feeling whenever I was standing there announcing our names in the All-Star games, and I was just like picturing my young self thinking like, wow, I used to watch this game, you know what I mean? So like it was a really cool moment. So we share a moment in our careers like that, and it was an amazing moment. So obviously standing on the podium, hearing your national anthem has had to be a amazing moment as well. But how long did you actually enjoy that moment? This is
the good and the bad in tennis. The good is that there's always another week of tennis the next week.
Right.
The bad thing is that there's always another week next week, so you have to like quickly, do a quick pivot. I tried to enjoy the moment as much as I could. I was supposed to play 3 days later in Cincinnati.
Oh, wow.
You know, it was right in the smack dab in the middle of the U.S. Open series, right before the U.S. Open. And I, without consulting with my coaching team, I said, I'm pulling out of the tournament. I need to take a breather. Obviously, it was a lot to take in. It was, Puerto Rico was exploding. It was going crazy. It was my first giant win. It's considered a Grand Slam for tennis. And I needed time. It was a very chaotic 48 hours after I had all these interviews, all these media requests, and my life changed overnight because suddenly, people in the tennis world knew who I was, but with the Olympics, the whole world is watching, and not just, tennis fans, but sports fans in general. So I had all of these different requests. I met all of these different people, and it changed my life in so many amazing ways and not so amazing ways, because I had never dealt with any of this. This was completely new to me. It was completely foreign to me, and having all of this attention, these media obligations, it was like accelerated by a lot. I mean, I was still 34 in the world because you don't get any points for the Olympics in your ranking, but all of a sudden you're just this person that everybody wants a piece of, and I had to learn that, and it was very challenging.
How do you think that played into the level that you wanted to get to? So like, say you were number one and number two, you kind of get a similar vibe, right? Of like everyone wanting a piece of you and this and that. Do you think experiencing that kind of put a damper on what you thought it would feel like being number one or two?
Yeah, it was really tough because I also put a lot of pressure on myself, expecting myself to do well at every single event. And that was a big learning curve. That was a process. I suddenly, went through a lot of mental health issues because suddenly I was this person that everybody expected to start winning tournaments and start getting far in events. The rest of the year I didn't end up playing badly. I didn't do well at the US Open, but I finished the year strong. But the years after that, it was really tough to go onto the court and play. I couldn't replicate the tennis that I played at the Olympics. I couldn't do the same things, and it was really hard to deal with. It was a big thing kind of thrown my way, and I had no experience in how to deal with it. A lot of people obviously tried to offer, their advice and stuff, but if they're not in your shoes feeling what you're feeling, it's really hard. And the pressure being, I was 22 when I won, and 23, 24-year-old just living this life. All of a sudden you're a superstar in your own country. You can't even walk on the sidewalk by yourself. It's a lot to deal with, and it became something that I had to work through and grasp along the way. I mean, it brought me some amazing things. I'm so fortunate that I got to experience all of the things that I did, but it was really hard to learn.
Do you think any of that led to the injuries? Because you know how sometimes pressure can be felt like through the body as well, and especially if you're trying to play with more effort, you switch to result oriented.
Yep.
And we both spoke about like that wasn't the best space to be in as an athlete. So do you think that added pressure to and maybe went into the injuries? Like, because after your gold medal run, you ran into a string of injuries as well.
Yeah, it wasn't until 2019 that I really started struggling with a lot of injuries, and my career was kind of up and down from 2016 to 2019. I was trying, to find my form. I thankfully always stayed in the top 100, which was great, but had kind of spotty results. But like we said, there's a lot of source of tension. There's a lot of things that happens to your body. And for me, when I get very tense, I tend to tighten up my whole body. And, that led to my first injury, which was an elbow injury.
What surgery was it?
I had a compressed ulnar nerve.
Okay.
So, all the muscles in my elbow were compressing my nerve to the point that on every impact, I would lose feeling in these two fingers. I would have a lot of pain in my hand. And, if I didn't have it fixed, I would have had nerve damage. And I was like floored, because this is the first time that I would have to miss almost a year of tennis. And it was really hard. And coming back from that injury screwed up my shoulder, because, you miss the sport so much that you just want to do everything possible to get back out there. Maybe rushed a little bit too much, and then ended up hurting my shoulder. And, that was the beginning of the end, and I didn't even know it. I was going through a lot of personal things that really shut me down, but it felt like the way I felt was that life was betraying me in a way. Like, why are you doing this to me? Why all of a sudden am I having to deal with all of these things when, I had it so good at one point? But looking back on it now, I learned a lot of lessons, and I learned a lot of things that helped me grow as a person. And, life happens. We don't really know the reasons why things happen as they do, but all we can do is have faith that everything is working out for the best.
Right.
But
can you explain to me the final straw that broke the camel's back to making you retire?
Yeah, so it was the end of 2021. I had my second shoulder surgery and did all the rehab process. I moved to Arizona to be with the best person for shoulder rehab in tennis. And, he said everything's going to be okay, we're going to work on this. And I had been with him after my first shoulder surgery as well. He's like, don't worry, we're going to get it back on track. And I'm like, you know what, we're going to do this, and I'm going to do this again. And I was coming back and start playing tennis, and, I'm overjoyed. I'm out on the court. I feel like I'm a little kid in a candy store just playing again. But my shoulder was never really pain-free. And, my doctor kind of told me that. He's like, you're going to have to kind of deal with this. And I'm not really good with pain. I can play with it and stuff like that, but, it's very uncomfortable, especially when you have to do all of these movements and every impact is just a chore. I was getting ready to come back on tour. It was about this time last year. I'm getting ready to, make my first appearance in Madrid, and I was never really feeling quite right. And I was practicing, before the tournament with the girls. They were blowing me off the court because I just didn't have the same firepower. I wasn't, where I needed to be. I had an inkling that it wasn't going to go the way I wanted to. I'm very competitive, and I was going to give it my all.
Right.
But after the match that I lost, I played incredibly well as it being my first event, and I was still very competitive, but my shoulder was bothering me the whole entire time. And I couldn't lift my arm the next day, and I was due to go to another tournament, and I was like, talking to my mom, I was like, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. It still hurts. I mean, to the point that I couldn't sleep on my shoulder. But, I kept going at it, kept trying, kept rehabbing. And then I played that second tournament. And in the second game, I double faulted. And, double faults are very common, but not when the ball that you just hit bounces on your side and hits the net. And that's, you know, when I kind of just broke out in tears and I walked up to the net and, you know, told the girl I can't continue the match. And the tournament was quite upset with me because they gave me a wild card, but I was like, look, what do you want me to do? Be out there and hurt myself any further or play with this type of pain? There's nothing more I can do. I did all that I could do. It just wasn't meant to be. And I kind of knew. I had a feeling that it was not going to be good news when I saw the doctor. And, you know, the minute I got into the car with my mom, my aunt was there. She had come from Puerto Rico. I just broke down in tears in the car and I said, I think this is it. And the doctor just confirmed it. He's like, look, we're going to do another surgery more for your quality of life, just so that you can sleep on your shoulder, you can carry things, because at that point I couldn't carry anything. And I said, yeah, I mean, I would love to sleep without needing to like wake up in the middle of the night, you know? And he's like, but professional tennis is out of the question. We're going to do something so maybe you can play, you know, recreationally if you want from time to time, but like you can't push your shoulder to this point. And it was just soul crushing. I mean, it still is, because I see tennis the way it is now and I feel like I should still be there. I still want to be there, but my body won't let me. Legs is usually in tennis the main thing you want to work on, so in some way, shape, or form, legs would be every day.
So we're going to gauge the core on this one a little bit more. So we go right here down to the mat. We're going to hold this right here. Right here, I want you to squeeze your core, and we're just going to do high knees. Down. We have these low plank creatures.
Elbows up, side to side, like the song.
Lean like a cholo.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll do it one more time.
Yep.
Okay. Ooh. Ooh.
That was a good ab burner.
Yeah. You got it. Hit. Come on. You got it. There it is.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Last one.
Girly push-ups.
It's all right. You made it.
Oh, you're great.
Hell yeah.
Pop it up.
Great
So
stuff.
much fun.
I learned a lot, and I feel like people that are watching this are gonna learn a lot.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Appreciate it. Good shit.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
brother. So, how was that transition from tennis to marathons?
I was kind of tired of doctors telling me what I couldn't do, and I was like, well, I want to do something that I can do. And, you know, the running just sort of became something that I enjoyed, and I find that same emotion running that I did when I played, because there's the crowd that's cheering you on. You're around all of these people who are suffering essentially with you. And at the end, when you cross the finish line, you get a medal, and, you know, 3.5 hours after all of this really, really tough stuff, you have this sense of satisfaction, gratification that I put in all of this hard work and I got this really great result.
Right.
And it's really cool, and we've pivoted, you know, now going to do our first half Ironman, and, you know, hopefully in a couple years do a full Ironman. And I just love being active. I love being outside.
You love being challenged.
I do.
Yeah.
I like being pushed. I like learning something new as well, because tennis was something I was always really good at, and running is something I was never, you know, good at time-wise. And it's a challenge to learn it, because I don't want to do it just for fun. I want to see how good I can get.
Right.
You know, I'm really enjoying the challenge and being outside and doing something different. You know, especially in Georgia, it's beautiful being outside and in the trails and stuff like that. I'm really having a good time.
Just wrapped with Monica. It was pretty cool to hang out with someone like that. I don't know how many people get to hang out with Olympic gold medal winners, and especially at the time she won it, she was the first person for Puerto Rico to win a gold medal. So that was pretty cool to get insight on her process and what it was like to compete in the Olympics. It was kind of cool how she said one of the reasons that she was able to play good is because she was able to detach from actually playing. So instead of like going back and just being with her trainers and being so hyper focused on trying to win a gold medal, she would go back and she would hang out with all the other people in the village and like have fun and play loose and everything. And I think for her, she said it helped her trust the process instead of being goal oriented. It's hard to not to try so hard, because that's how we got to where we are, is trying really hard to get there, you know? So being able to trust the process and relax in it is kind of a hard thing for us to fathom, because again, we try so damn hard. But it was interesting that she found that nice flow and she was able to compete at the level that she wanted to and ultimately win a gold medal. So there was one part when we were working out, the trainer was telling us we're gonna do some push-ups, and Monica was like, "Oh no, like I'm not good at push-ups." And for a second there, I was like, "Wait, what? Like you're gonna like not do these push-ups?" And she's like, then all of a sudden it was a quick thought of of doubt, and then no, I'll do it. And then she goes in and she does, I think we do like 3 sets or more of push-ups, and that just shows that like she didn't allow that doubt to overtake her. She wasn't afraid to do something and possibly fail. And I think that was one of the reasons why she's so successful at what she's doing, is like she's not afraid to fail. And I think that's one of the biggest things people can learn, that with success, failure comes. And Monica, right there in front of our eyes, was like, "You know what, I'm gonna do it," you know? And that was just the type of attitude that you can expect from someone that is so successful as her, and how she's not afraid to fail. She's gonna go out there and do what she needs to do. And if it's a failure, she's gonna learn from it, process it, and understand like, all right, this is the reason why I didn't succeed, and here's the things I can do to get better from it.